Welcome back to the Bible Breakdown channel. Today's video will be the miracle of the widow's oil. Have you ever felt like you're at the end of your rope? Like you've given everything you have and there's nothing left? Today we're diving into a story from the Bible that speaks directly to that feeling of desperation. A story about a woman who had almost nothing, yet witnessed a miracle that changed everything. This is the incredible story of the widow's oil. Our story begins in ancient Israel, a time of prophets and kings. It's found in the Old Testament, in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 4. We're introduced to a woman, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets. Her husband had been a faithful follower of God, a good man, but he had recently passed away, leaving her and their 2 sons in a dire situation. Imagine her grief. Not only is she mourning the loss of her beloved husband, but she's also facing a terrifying financial crisis. In those days, there was no social safety net, no life insurance, no easy way for a widow to provide for her family. Her husband had left behind a significant debt, and the creditor was coming to collect, and his terms were brutal. He wasn't just after their home or their belongings. He was threatening to take her 2 sons as slaves to pay off the debt. Can you feel her panic? Her sons, the only precious connection she had left to her husband, the very future of her family, were about to be torn away from her. She was facing a future of utter desolation. In her absolute desperation, she does the only thing she can think of. She cries out for help. She goes to the man of God, the prophet Elisha, who had known her husband. She lays her heart bare, explaining her terrifying predicament. "Your servant, my husband, is dead," she says, "and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Her plea is raw and full of pain. She's not asking for a handout. She's appealing to Elisha's memory of her husband's faithfulness. She's clinging to the hope that the God her husband served so devoutly would not abandon his family in their darkest hour. Elisha listens. He doesn't dismiss her or offer empty platitudes. He asks a simple, practical question. "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" Think about that question. He doesn't start by promising a miracle. He starts with what she already possesses. He invites her to look at her own resources, no matter how small they might seem. The widow's response is heartbreaking. She replies, "Your servant has nothing there at all, ... except a small jar of olive oil." That's it, a single, small jar of oil. In a house that was likely being emptied by debt, this was all she had left. It was practically nothing. In the face of losing her sons, a little bit of cooking oil must have felt completely insignificant, almost worthless. It would be like saying all you have is half a bottle of ketchup when you're about to lose your home. It seems utterly hopeless. But to Elisha, this small jar of oil is not an obstacle. It's the starting point. It's the seed for the miracle to come. He sees potential where she sees poverty. Then Elijah gives her a set of very strange instructions. He says, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Get as many as you can." Let's pause here and put ourselves in her shoes. This must have sounded bizarre. She's in a crisis, and the prophet is telling her to go on a scavenger hunt for empty containers. Her neighbors probably knew about her financial troubles. Wouldn't it be humiliating to go door to door asking for their empty jars? It required a huge leap of faith and a willingness to look a little foolish. But the key part of his instruction is don't ask for just a few. He is challenging her to expand her capacity for a blessing. The size of the miracle she was about to receive would be limited only by the number of empty jars she was willing to collect. Elisha continues with the second part of the plan. "Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil from your jar into all the other jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. Shut the door." This is so important. The miracle was not going to be a public spectacle. It was a private, intimate moment for her and her family. It was between them and God. By closing the door, she was creating a space of faith, shutting out the doubt, the fear, and the prying eyes of the world. She was creating a sanctuary where the impossible could happen. So, what does she do? Does she question him? Does she argue? No. The Bible tells us she left him and did as he said. In her desperation, she found the strength to obey. She and her sons go out, knocking on doors, gathering vessel after vessel. They likely came back with an odd assortment of pots, jugs, and jars of all shapes and sizes. They brought them into their small home, and then, as instructed, they shut the door. The moment of truth has arrived. The room is filled with empty jars. Her 2 sons are with her, probably watching with a mixture of confusion and hope. She takes her one small jar of oil, the one that held barely enough for a few meals. She tilts it and begins to pour it into the first empty jar, and the oil just keeps flowing. She fills the first jar to the brim. Her sons hand her another. She fills that one, too, and another, and another. The little jar of oil, which should have been empty in seconds, keeps pouring. It defies logic. It defies physics. It is a quiet, steady, miraculous stream of provision. Imagine the look on her sons' faces. Imagine the tears of relief and awe streaming down her own face. Each filled jar was a testament to God's faithfulness. Each filled jar was a promise that her sons would not be taken from her. The sound in that small closed-off room wasn't a loud explosion or a clap of thunder. It was the gentle, continuous sound of oil pouring, the sound of hope being restored. She keeps pouring until she turns to his son and says, "Bring me another one." But his reply marks the end of the miracle. He says there is not a jar left. And at that very moment, the Bible says, the oil stopped flowing. The miracle was directly proportional to her preparation and her faith. God provided enough to fill every single empty vessel she had gathered. If she had gathered only a few jars, the blessing would have been small. But because she obeyed Elisha's instruction to not ask for just a few, the blessing was abundant. Now, her house is filled with jars of valuable olive oil. But the story isn't over. She goes back to the man of God, Elisha, and tells him what happened. She doesn't just assume what to do next. She seeks his guidance once more. Elisha gives her the final, practical instruction. Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your boys can live on what is left. This wasn't just magic. This was a practical solution to her very real problem. The miracle provided the means for her to become financially solvent. First, she was to pay her debt. This honors her obligation and frees her sons from the threat of slavery forever. Justice is served. And then, the rest was for them. Not just to survive for a week or a month, but to live on. God didn't just solve her immediate crisis. He provided for her future. He took her from a state of utter lack to a state of abundance. He turned her symbol of poverty, one small jar of oil, into the source of her wealth and security. So, what can we take away from this powerful story today? First, it teaches us to start where we are, with what we have. The widow thought she had nothing, but she had something. Sometimes we overlook the small things in our lives: a talent, a friendship, a tiny bit of resourcefulness. God can take our little bit of oil and multiply it in ways we can't imagine. Don't despise small beginnings. Second, the story shows the importance of obedience and faith, even when the instructions seem strange. The widow had to step out, risk embarrassment, and trust the prophet's word. Her obedience opened the door for the miracle. Third, we determine the size of our blessing. Elisha told her to gather many jars. The flow of oil only stopped when she ran out of empty vessels to fill. It's a powerful metaphor. How much space are we creating in our lives for God to work? Are we bringing Him just a few small jars of expectation? Or are we bringing Him every empty space in our lives, ready to be filled? And finally, this story is a beautiful illustration of God's heart for the desperate. He saw this grieving, terrified woman. He heard her cry, and He didn't just offer comfort. He provided a way out. He didn't just solve a problem. He gave her a future filled with hope. So if you're feeling like that widow today, if you feel like you're at the end of your rope and all you have is one small, insignificant jar of oil, I want to encourage you. Bring what you have to God. Shut the door on your fear and doubt. And get ready to be amazed. You never know what miracles are waiting to flow. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that explores these timeless stories of faith and hope. We'll see you in the next video.